Hi, welcome to episode 545 of The Corner of Knit and Tea. My name is Laura. I'm also known as Fluffy Kira on Instagram and over at Blue Sky. I blog over at thecornerofknitandtea.com, which is where this episode and every episode show notes will be. And I have an Etsy shop called The Corner of Knit and Tea where I sell my handspun yarn and knitting patterns. Hi, how are you? It is Monday, November 10th, and it is properly cold here. The temperature dropped quite a bit yesterday, and it was in the 30s yesterday and today. And so I have been able to pull out my sorrel. This is my I think it's winter sorrel. I know there's a summer sorrel, but this is my sorrel sweater that is a wool and pine pattern that I held with a variety of yarns doubled throughout, and it is warm and cozy. It is with a string or with a thread of alpaca silk, and so it is quite warm and cozy and perfect for really cold days. So how are you? I had a great weekend. I got to do lots of crafting, and that is always a wonderful thing. Cold temperatures make it nice to stay indoors and just craft and do all the things. So today I have some knitting, a little bit of spinning, sort of, and a little bit of sewing. So let's talk about things. The bulk of my focus this past week and a bit is Nanny Swamo, which is National Knit a Sweater Month. I showed you at my very beginnings last time. I am knitting a pattern called 6 Crooked Highways, and it is by Kristen Jancic, who is Media Peruana, and it is a fingering weight pullover with some cables, a very kind of relaxed fit, drop shoulders, turtleneck, and it is knit in the round from the bottom up. So I am working on the kind of the bulk of the body down at the bottom, and I am several inches in. So last I checked, I think I'm about 21,000 stitches in, and I'm at between 6 and 7 inches into the body, and that is where I'm at. So I love how this is knitting up. You can see that there is kind of a simple cable pattern and then a little bit of stockinette stitch in there. It is done in bands and worked. It's got a twisted ribbing down at the bottom, and I am just loving how this is working up. I'm doing between 8 and 12 rows a night, which is about all my hands can handle, and I have a few other things that I am knitting on, but this is primarily the effort, and I am just loving it. It's soft and it's lush, and I am just absolutely loving it. My gauge is not quite right. And so technically I am knitting the extra large size because that is the stitch count that most closely corresponds with my gauge to give me a sweater for myself. I have a 38-inch bust. Normally I would knit a medium, and this calls, I think, for between 2 and 4 or maybe 4 and 6 inches, maybe 2 and 6 inches of ease. So there is a little bit of ease on it, not a ton. And so I am working on that, but I'm really pleased. The yarn that I'm working with is one of my favorites. It's called Cozy Colorworks, and it was something that I bought not at Rhinebeck, although I first discovered them at Rhinebeck, but it is Cozy Colorworks, and I actually bought this one at Stitches Midwest, probably in 2018, I think, and it is the colorway Northern Lights, and it's their fingering weight yarn. It is a fairly thin fingering weight yarn. It's 550 yards to a skein, and so that is probably the reason that I'm not getting quite the right gauge, although actually the sweater was knit in a similar gauge yarn. I am working on 2.75 No, I'm working on 3mm needles, and I will drop down to probably either 2.25 or 2.5mm needles to do the trim, but at least right now everything is done on the larger needles. So that's where I am. I hope to keep going. I obviously will probably not be finishing this in the month because this is a third of the month already gone, but I plan to keep working, and I'll work through December, and my hope is that at the end of it, I have a sweater that I will really enjoy wearing. So this is a little bit better what the yarn color looks like. It is kind of a medium gray, and then it's got, it's called Northern Lights, so it's got Aurora Borealis colors, which is like pink and purple, and then like a bright kind of neon greenish yellow. So that is in my Loop project bag from Loop London, and I am really enjoying that one. As a smaller project, I am still working on socks for my niece. Last week I finished the first sock, and so that is here. And I used the Wish You Were Here pattern by, I think it's called Kitchen Sink Dye Works. Kitchen Sink Shop, something like that. And I am using yarn from, let me pull it out if I have it in here. Yes, yarn from Deep Dyed Yarns, and it is her Good Juju sock base, 435 yards to a skein, 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon in the colorway multiplayer. And so that's this fun kind of pink, purple, blue, black. And I did start the second. I did not get as far as I wanted to, but I finished the cuff and done maybe like half of the upper cuff. So I finished the ribbing up at the top, and then I am doing the other one had the patterning down the left side. So now I'm doing the patterning down the right side. I'm basically just doing a mirror opposite, and I am halfway done with the cuff. I need to do three or four more repeats of the pattern, and then I will be ready to turn the heel. These socks need to be done in time for Thanksgiving because that is when I will see my niece. But given that I have maybe 3/4 of a one sock left to do, I am not concerned about it. My hope is that maybe I'll get down to the heel and maybe turn the heel this week. And then even if I have to do the foot in the car on the way out to Thanksgiving, my husband and I drive to California every year for Thanksgiving. We live in the Midwest, so it takes us 2 days. So that's lots of knitting time in the car, and I will be easily able to finish the socks then. So those are the two knitting projects that I have on the needles, and that is what I have been concentrating most of my time on. But I do have a few other things that I am working on. I am down to just a very little bit left of this fiber, which was kind of a day's end batch from a friend of mine, Treasure Goddess. It's called Dye Day. Treasure Goddess yarn. This is her 85% Polworth, 15% Tussa silk. And basically we went over to her house and dyed a bunch of yarn. And at the end of the day, she had us pour all the leftover dye into a couple different jars based on colors. And this is one of the ones she dyed from it. So this is Polworth and Tussa silk. So like a merino and silk. You can see the silk takes the dye differently. And it's kind of both a red and blue purple, and different parts of the silk took the dye very differently than the rest of the fiber. And there were little bits of blue in there. I don't see so much in here, but in some of the other sections, you can see there were kind of bits of blue in there as well. And so this is kind of the end of this one. I had decided that I wasn't getting enough variation in spinning, and so I thought that I wanted to make this a combo spin. And last week I held it up next to a braid and was like, I don't like those together. So I went stash diving again and pulled out something else, and I think this one works a little bit better. So this is called Besotted. It was the May 2025 Fiber Club from Hello Yarn, and it is Falkland. And so it's got a lot of the different colors of purple. It's got both the kind of pinky purple and then also the bluey purple. And so I think it's a really good match with what I've got here. So this is the first 4 ounces, and I am almost done spinning this. I have maybe a half an ounce to an ounce left. And then on this one, this will be the second 4 ounces. And so I will start that hopefully maybe sometime this week. I'm getting close to done on this bobbin, and then I'll get started on this one. So, and that will be a spin for the shop. I hope that I will finish it before Thanksgiving, and I can pop that up into the shop. So, and it should be decent yardage. It should be probably between 500 and 600 yards, because it'll be 8 ounces of fiber, and I usually spin a little over 300 for 4 ounces of fiber. So that should be really good. Might even be a little more than 600. We'll have to see, depending on how much fiber I have. So that is the current spinning that's going on. The final thing that I have to show you is that I actually finished putting a quilt top together over the weekend. This is the Sakatumi quilt pattern that I showed you a while ago, and I took a fat quarter bundle, and basically fat quarters are 18 by 22 inch pieces of fabric, and I cut them in half and then made the blocks, as you'll see in just a moment, and then I put all the blocks together, and I now have a quilt top. So this is fairly large. It is going to be probably about 45 by, not quite 64, I think 45 by 60. And so this is what I have. So I showed you these blocks, and basically they're just arranged together sort of upright and then down again. And so this is what I have, and it is 5 blocks across and then 4 blocks long. So that is the top of my quilt, and now I just need to put it together and quilt it. I do have a piece of backing fabric that is in pink and should be large enough, and if not, I'm just going to add, I'm going to cut it down the middle and add just a little bit of fabric in between, and then I will be able to quilt it. I am not going to start this right now. It is a goal to finish it by the end of the year. Gosh, you know, ever since I started quilting, I have threads everywhere. Like, it used to be just little neps of fiber from my spinning and little ends of yarn from weaving in ends, and now I have threads everywhere, all over, and I will go through and trim all of these threads and kind of get these all done, but I just haven't had a chance to go do it yet. So I will be quilting this by the end of the year, I hope, but not right away. Immediately what I did is I finished this on Saturday, and then on Sunday I went back to my fireworks finale quilt, the America 250 quilt that I am doing as a sew-along, and I started on the next blocks for that. And the blocks for that this month are pinwheel blocks, and there are a lot of them. There are probably, well, when all is said and done, so the way you make a pinwheel block is a pinwheel block is made of half square triangle blocks, and that is where you sew one color to another color, basically in triangles, and so when you open it up, it is a square block, and then there's a diagonal, and one triangle is one color, and one triangle is another color. Every pinwheel block requires 4 of those triangles in the same 2 colors, and I am putting together, let's see, I did 8 and then 44, so that is 52 times 4. So that's 204 little square blocks that first I have to sew those together, and then I have to trim them down to size, and then I have to start grouping them in groups of 4. So that is a big project. It's going to take me quite a few weekend days. I worked on it quite a bunch yesterday, and then I went ahead and did a little bit more this morning. I just had like 15 minutes right before my lunch hour, or right as I was taking my lunch hour, so I decided to sit down and sew a little bit, and I think I'm going to try and do that one in little pieces, because otherwise it is a lot of the same thing. It's so many blocks, hundreds of blocks. So I am working on that, and hopefully we'll finish that clue before we leave for Thanksgiving. And then my plan is, as soon as I get home from Thanksgiving, to get this on the machine so that I can finish this before the end of the year, or like during the Christmas holiday. So my plan is to have that one done by the end of the year. It will be another quilt to donate, so it will just go in the donate stash, ready for as soon as I see a call for quilts. So that kind of brings me to the end of my quilting year. I still have some things that I would like to do in terms of finishes for this year. I'm still working on that scrap blanket, and my hope is that I will finish that by the end of the year, in addition to my sweater. And I think I have a pair of socks picked out for my Christmas Eve cast on. So those are kind of where I'm at. I know this was a pretty quick episode, but I have, like I said, I've been spending lots of time knitting and spinning and sewing, and it's just making me quite happy. I know that as the days get chillier and chillier, I will try and spend more time indoors and more time crafting lovely warm things, taking my mind off all of the things that are happening in the outside world. So I hope that you are doing well. I should say I didn't discuss the tea today because it's not tea. Today I am actually drinking coffee. I'm drinking coconut flavored coffee from Big B Coffee. And actually I just ordered more because I ordered a bunch to make, to give as holiday gifts, because it is one of my new favorite coffees, and I am drinking it in my alphabet mug, which I absolutely love, which was given to me by a dear friend. So that is what I'm drinking. That will keep me awake for the rest of the afternoon. I have a tech edit and then a few other things at work to get done. I hope that you have a lovely weekend. Weekend is over. It's Monday. I hope you have a lovely week ahead, that you are enjoying your crafting, and I can't wait to see and hear what you are up to. So I will say, as I always do, happy spinning, happy knitting, happy sipping, and I'll see you next time. Bye.